You're listening to Sasquatch Syndicate.
911, what are you reporting?
We got someone or something crawling around out here.
Did you see what it was? Was it a person or an animal or?
I can't tell. All I know is that my central light came on and I just happened to glimpse and see this thing running across the yard.
And all the ape believers don't want any of the paranormal believers to say anything because they're all whacked and screwed up and we don't want them. And all the paranormal believers don't want, go to the ape believers saying, well, you're all closed-minded. You're not open to the fact that it does this and it does that.
And I look over my left shoulder and this creature is running through the woods and it's bulldozing the brush down. And I knew, man, this thing is going to get me.
Sasquatch Syndicate. I'm your host, Chuck, out in Seattle, Washington, along with Paul in Portland, Oregon. Thanks to everyone for listening and those following us at SasquatchSyndicate.com and on our social media outlets. For those participating in the Sasquatch Syndicate monthly t-shirt giveaway, this month's winner was Steve Prater from Baton Rouge, Louisiana. So Steve, thanks for listening to the show, and please check your Facebook for winner notification. Happy December, everyone. Just a few announcements before this month's podcast. Just a quick note to thank all those that bought merchandise on the website in 2018. Thank you again for your continued support of the show. It really does help keep us all going. Also, for those interested in the Sasquatch Syndicate expedition in 2019, the itinerary is now complete. And so if you filled out a form on the website, look forward to a return email and correspondence from the team in the next several weeks. So on to this month's podcast. With us tonight on Sasquatch Syndicate is Sev Tok. She is the author of You Have the Right to Talk to Aliens. We met Sev back at AlienCon Baltimore, and she has some amazing stories on alien interactions and how to speak to aliens on their terms. So Sev, welcome to Sasquatch Syndicate. And if you wouldn't mind maybe sharing a little bit about your background for our listeners.
At a very young age, I realized that I just knew information about people that I shouldn't normally know. And at a young age, I was hearing things and seeing things that in the beginning I thought were normal, that everyone was hearing and seeing. And then as I grew up, I realized it's not normal. And I learned to just stop talking about it. So this multidimensional, interdimensional communication I've been doing my entire life. But I just kept it a secret. And there were also a long spans of time in my life where I thought I was crazy. And so I put myself through a lot of turmoil because I didn't want to admit that I can hear, feel, and see interdimensional information, and everybody can. That's the thing, everybody can. There's nothing special about someone who talks to the dead or has psychic abilities or who can do astral travel. We can all do it, and all it takes is practice. And so for most of my life, I just tried to hide that until it got to the point where I just couldn't hide it anymore. And that was in my mid to late 40s. And I just told myself, I need an answer. I need to know whether I'm crazy, and then I'll go seek help, or whether there's something real to this, and then I'll decide what I'm going to do with these abilities. So I got the answer that I needed, and I realized that this is for real. And I started doing soul purpose readings, which are information that I get interdimensionally. I can hear, feel, and see information about people. And in these readings, what comes out is your purpose, how you can achieve it if you want to, what some past lives are if you're interested in past lives. I've given readings to people who weren't interested in their past lives at all, so it's not imperative. Also, what you have radiating from you in terms of energy, your personal energetic matrix, which creates your reality. So we pinpoint some energies that you're radiating that is aligning you with the people and the places and the things that you don't want. And we try and eliminate those energies, and then we focus in on the energies that you are radiating that are helping you align with what you do want, and I help you increase those energies. I talk a lot about the law of alignment. Most people know about the law of attraction, but because quantum physics says the energy of everything is everywhere, it's really not about attracting anything. The energy of what you want is right in front of you. So I talk a lot about the energy that you exude and how that creates your reality. And in the backdrop of all of this has been aliens.
So, Sev, talk a little bit about that. When did you really start understanding you had the ability to talk to aliens?
I've been having contact since I was a little girl in elementary school. And I was just hiding it and hiding it and hiding it, and I didn't want to talk about it. I thought maybe there were intense dreams or hallucinations. And 6 months ago, it was just only 6 months ago, I woke up and I'm like, I have to write a book about my journey of ET contact and how millions of people are having ET contact and they don't even know it.
So, Sev, talk a little bit about that distinction and why you think people really struggle with that. Is it because they think it's the voices in their head, or?
The reason for that is because ET contact can happen in two ways. It can happen in a very 3D way when you're awake and you're open, your eyes are open and you see a spaceship or you see aliens. But most ET contact happens in an interdimensional fashion. In the multiple dimensions, we live in more than just three. And when you have an interdimensional contact with an extraterrestrial, your brain has a really hard time processing that. Your brain likes to be logical. And so it interprets that reality as either a dream or a hallucination, or it throws it back into your subconscious. And that's why a lot of experiencers get hypnosis.
So, Sev, if you could go back just to, here you were a kid and you had these, thoughts in your head and maybe didn't know, that you were being communicated with, and there's probably other kids or people out there that have this same thing happening to them. But can you talk a little bit about when you realized that, hey, I'm not crazy, I'm not schizophrenic, there's something really talking to me?
That's a really good point. I'm glad you brought it up about the kids, because I really like talking about kids and talking with kids about our multidimensionality and about aliens. And at AlienCon, after my talk, a lot of kids and teenagers came up to me and said, oh my gosh, I feel like you understand. And that warmed my heart. And as far as when I realized it, it was really only a year ago. We moved here to the Inner Banks of North Carolina a year ago, and the second night that I was here, I had ET contact with a gray, and it left a red X on my back, on my hiney. And 9 days later, I got another red X on my other cheek. First it was my left cheek on my hiney, then it was the right cheek on my hiney. And with the second X, I had a very, very conscious memory of a gray standing behind me. And I write about all of this in the book. It really wasn't until I got these two X's on my hiney that I realized, oh my gosh, these are not dreams, because dreams don't give you red X's.
So, Seb, this interaction you had with this, purported gray alien, was that your first? Was it the only time, or have you had other episodes?
No, I've had many. And I used to be very, very afraid. There's a propaganda going on about how aliens are evil and they're bad and they're out to hurt you, and I fell for that. And also my personal life. I've been in some abusive relationships, so that tinted my lens, so to speak, about how I viewed my experiences with the Greys. I thought they were abusing me too. I figured, well, other people abused me, of course they're going to abuse me too. And it's not until I did the personal self-introspection to get rid of that victim vibe from my energetic matrix that I realized, oh, they're not out to hurt me or abuse me at all. They're actually here to help me.
So, Seb, as you were first starting to have these experiences, how did you discern that, these weren't harmful and that, you were being provided some guidance or direction from these entities?
Yeah, so it's interesting is when they branded me with the X's, which was the scariest experience that I had with them, but also the most enlightening. And after the first X, I was just stunned. And then when the second X came, I really, there are no words to describe what that second X did to me. It just made me realize that I don't know who I am. I don't know what I am. I don't know what's going on, but I have to figure it out. And it was through a lot of introspection, meditation, talking to other people. It's really important to get help. I didn't get help for a long time. These days, it's really easy to get help. That I started to see that there was a shift in my life, in my personal reality, and the shift was a positive one. So if these aliens were out to hurt me, I would not be growing spiritually. I would not be becoming fulfilled, becoming more peaceful, becoming a happier person. And that is what has been happening to me since these ET contacts. Another belief I have is that the reason they put the X's on my hiney is because that's a Kundalini area. And the Kundalini energy is a very strong energy that enters us upon birth and leaves us when we die. And many of us have heard of Kundalini yoga, and all those kind of things. And it's an energy that, as it spirals up your body, it really changes you in profound ways. If it spirals up too quickly, it can be too much for the physical body to deal with. But if it slowly spirals up your body, what happens is all of a sudden you have this intense desire to know the truth about yourself, to know the truth about the world. You have this intense desire to be happy, to listen to your heart, to discover what your purpose is on this earth, and to live that purpose, and to love as much as possible. And these are all the things that have been happening to me since I've been in contact with the ETs. These are all beautiful things. So they haven't been hurting me. It was my own brain that was telling me that this was bad, but my heart the whole entire time was telling me it was not. Finally, when I decided to listen to my heart, I realized, oh my gosh, when you have ET contact with an advanced civilization, it can completely change your life because you are given guidance and advice from a higher perspective, from a perspective where you can see the big picture. And when you get guidance and advice from that viewpoint, oh, it's profound, and it can really lead you to personal happiness.
So, Sev, growing up, did you have anybody that was kind of your coach, your guide on how to interact with these entities or aliens, or did it just start with the first interaction?
For most of my life, I would say up until really just a couple of years ago, I was dealing with this on my own. I had a couple of friends who've had ET experiences, but I didn't talk about it very much. It wasn't until these X's showed up on my body and I started doing, coming out a little bit more, which was really difficult for me because I was just really so afraid of what people were going to think of me. And that's why I wrote the book. It's like my coming out. So a couple of years ago when I realized I needed help, so I reached out to my girlfriends, and they were very helpful. And then I had a very special girlfriend named Maha Devi who's had ET experience herself, and she's also a spiritual teacher, and she helped me a lot. Also, Kathleen Martin from MUFON, she's the director of experiencer research. She was a big help to me. One day I realized that I had to reach out. I needed help because these two X's were beyond anything that I've ever experienced. And so I Googled MUFON, and I found Kathleen on there, and I sent her my picture, and I sent her my story, and within 3 days she wrote back, and she said she wanted to talk to me. And that conversation with her, we Skyped for an hour and a half, that conversation changed my life. She validated everything for me. And I would say from that point on, I felt much safer in what had happened to me. After my conversation with Kathleen, I didn't know what I was going to do with all the information I had, because when I came in contact with the Greys, they also gave me information. And I didn't know if I should be sharing this information with the world. I didn't know if I should be telling the world my story. And so I just sat on it for a few months, and then about 6 months ago, I woke up and I decided I have to write the book.
So Sev, your book, You Have the Right to Talk to Aliens. And by the way, if you haven't picked up that book, I definitely recommend it. You can find it out on SasquatchSyndicate.com under book club, or out on Amazon. But Sev, is, this experience is pretty profound. And you're going to sit down and kind of have this coming out party about writing this book. How was it that you were able to sit and just kind of organize your thoughts around these experiences?
Well, I knew I had to start out with my childhood, and that's why the first chapter in the book is about a galactic visitor that came to me frequently from the age 10 to 12. So I started the book out with his visits, and each visit from him was different. I would see his spacecraft coming, but from each time it's from a different direction. And he would come out, and he looked very human, except his ears were a little different. They were a little more almond-shaped. And it was just him and I by his spacecraft, and we would talk, and he was checking up on me. He would ask me if I'm okay, how things are going. And every time I saw his spacecraft coming, I would be so happy. It was like a big brother was coming to check up on me. And I started from there. And then everyone has a different way of writing. I just started to write down what was coming through me at that moment. And so for 2 months, I just sat down and just wrote down all the stories I could think of. And then I spent another month editing through that. I wrote the book very quickly. It was only in 2 months. I waited until I felt like writing it, and then when I waited until that moment, it came out very quickly. And so in the book, I share a lot of experiences. I had an experience in Roswell, New Mexico, which was a very profound experience for me, and my boyfriend was involved in that experience too. I've also had ET contact many times in Baltimore City, in Maryland, in Crofton, Maryland, where I grew up, on Capitol Hill in Washington, D.C., where I lived for a couple of years, Roswell, and here in the inner banks of North Carolina.
So, Sev, talk a little bit about Roswell. Certainly, one of the UFO hotspots, and certainly kind of ground zero of the 1948 incident. But, you had an experience while you were there. I'm just curious, you hit on it. Let's talk a little bit about Roswell. What really happened there?
Sure. It was out of the blue. One day, a gentleman wanted to be a friend of mine on Facebook, and he was very knowledgeable about UFOs. And then right after that, one of my best friends on Maui asked me if I had heard about Corey Goode, and I hadn't. So I started Googling Corey Goode. And then right after that, my boyfriend, who was in Hawaii at the time, called me and said, I have to go to White Sands for work. He just recently retired from the U.S. Navy. And why don't you meet me in El Paso, and I'll take you to White Sands, and then I'll take you up to Roswell, because he's known I've been fascinated with Roswell since I was a little girl. And those three things, boom, 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 right after each other, I knew something was going to happen. So we went to White Sands, and the actual White Sands part, the part where you can slide down the sands, have you done that?
Yeah, unfortunately, no, but I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, that was fun. And then he took me to the White Sands government complex, which gave me the most horrible feeling. I just wanted to run. I didn't want to be there. It has a very dark, nefarious feeling to it. It's located at the base of this black mountain. And then we went up to Roswell. And our first day there, we just went to the museum. We had a lot of fun. And then we went to our hotel room. And my boyfriend, Patrick, was in the bathroom, and I was sitting on the bed watching TV. We were both really tired. And I thought to myself, oh, I wish the TV show People of Earth would come on.
That's so funny that you referenced that. Great show on TBS there, and one of my faves for sure.
Mine too. And I was wishing it would come on because Patrick hadn't seen it yet. But I knew that the season had been over, and I didn't know when it was on. So I was flicking around, and when he came out of the bathroom, the channel fell on a commercial. And then the next thing I know, People of Earth comes on. And I'm like, whoa. So we sit on the bed and we watch it, and we both enjoyed it, and we went to sleep. The next thing I know, I wake up, my eyes pop open. It's pitch black, and I hear the sound of someone walking on the carpet, and I feel Patrick get back into the bed, and I say to myself, why was Patrick sitting on the couch? Was it because of the aliens? And I fell back to sleep. Then when I wake up in the morning, Patrick's in the shower. I'm thinking to myself, why would Patrick be sitting on the couch? He never gets up in the middle of the night and sits on the couch. And why did I think it was aliens? And then all of a sudden, I get this rush of memory and information. And I can see in my mind's eye that I was sitting at a table with Grays, and we were talking. It was like a conference. And they were giving me information about the hybridization program and why human beings are involved and how I'm involved and what the galactic system thinks of it. And we were also talking about a book that I was writing. And when I went to sleep the night before, I didn't know anything about the hybridization program. And then I woke up, and all of a sudden I have all this new information in my head. So Patrick comes out of the bathroom, and I said, Patrick, did you get up in the middle of the night? And he said, yes. And I said, what did you do? And he said, I went and I sat on the couch. And I'm like, oh, my gosh, okay, why did you do that? And my boyfriend's a very, very, very logical man. And he said, well, this has never happened to me before, and I don't know how to describe it, but there was something in this room. I felt like I was being watched. And I would get up, and I kept looking around, but I couldn't see anybody or anything. But it was so strong that I eventually just had to get out of bed and sit on the couch. And you, meanwhile, were in the bed flopping around. I thought for sure that you were going to wake up. So I shared with him my experience and my memories of what I was doing with the Grays and what we were talking about. And it was so intense for both of us that it kind of messed us up for a while, a little bit. Like the rest of the trip, we kept staring up at the sky expecting to see a spaceship. And when I got back home to Capitol Hill, I was still a little messed up about it because at that time I didn't like the Grays. I thought they were bad. I thought they were evil, and I thought every time I came in contact with them, it was not to my benefit. And so I thought, oh, when I get back to Capitol Hill, I'll just forget about it. Everything will be fine. But it was not fine. I couldn't stop thinking about it. I needed answers. And all I can remember about it was not enough. I needed to dig a little deeper. So I heard about a lady in Luray, Virginia, who does regression, and she's very experienced in ET, alien hypnosis. So I went to her, and with her I was able to go into more information about what that meeting was about. And basically, the hybridization program is happening between the human beings and the Grays. The Grays are specifically targeting something particular about human beings that they want genetically, and that is our ability to show love and our ability to show empathy. And this is something that they're very interested in, and they want these new babies that are being created to be infused with a lot of love and a lot of empathy. And the people who are being chosen are people who already possess this, who can easily say, I love you, who are very emotional, and they're also interested in people who have increased or advanced psychic abilities, but that doesn't have to be the case. And there's actually billions and billions of these babies, and there's millions and millions of humans involved in this hybridization program. And the galactic community knows about it, and there's a little bit of a concern. The concern being, what is going to happen to these billions of babies or embryos? Is someone going to take them and then use these babies for evil? My personal opinion is that if you want a killing machine, you don't want one that is infused with love and empathy, because it's not a good killing machine. My personal opinion is that these babies or these hybrids will not be used for evil, but quite the opposite.
So, Sev, are you summoning these, conversations with aliens? Are you, you have this right to talk to aliens? Is this in your control? Is it in their control?
We're really in control when it comes to this. That's something that I'd really like everyone to know, is that you're totally in control when you come in contact with an ET. And also, we're in control when it comes to how quickly we're spiritually advancing or technologically advancing. We're in control. They're not in control. So it's not like they're coming down and they're doing these upgrades to us, and then our reality changes. First, we have to want our reality to change, and then the upgrades can come.
So, Sev, this ability to speak to aliens or talk to aliens, do you believe that this is a gift, or does someone with no known abilities or skills or education, is this something that they're able to do? And how does one begin to talk to aliens?
Everyone can do it, and I think it's very advantageous to make contact with an advanced civilization. One thing that's important is that we know that we're multidimensional beings, and that there are life forms that exist in these other dimensions that we can come in contact with. And we come in contact with them through meditation and also in the dream state. And because of meditation in the dream state, we are really relaxed and we can hear, feel, and see interdimensional information a lot easier. So the best way to make contact is in meditation or in a dream state. In a meditation, all you have to do, simply there's just three things. You just have to believe that there is advanced life in the multi-dimensions. You have to believe that you can communicate with them, and then you just practice through meditation. And then you pay attention to what you hear, feel, and see. You pay attention to what you see in your mind's eye. You pay attention to what you hear. You pay attention to how you feel. And it's all about exercising your interdimensional muscles. This is why millions of people are having ET contact and don't know it, because they're doing it in a multi-dimensional way. And their brain is telling them, that was a dream, that was a hallucination, but it's not. Its logic gets in the way.
So, Sev, talk a little bit more about the Greys, and why do you think that they get the exposure, and why are they the kind of chosen ones, for this hybridization program? And how many other species do you think are out there?
The Greys are the most popular because our media chooses it to be so. And also, the Greys have an ability to pop into 3D reality and pop out of 3D reality. Not all high vibratory ETs can pop into 3D reality. So in order to communicate with them, it's done in a multidimensional fashion. That is why the ETs are the most popular, because they're able to have a 3D presence to them for a particular length of time, and then they disappear into another dimension. But because all life forms or all ETs can't do that, we think they don't exist, but we forget that they exist in the multi-dimensions.
So, Sev, to the novice that starts communicating with these aliens or entities across dimensions, and you hear about different things such as mind speak or telepathy or, these interdimensional communications. What are some of the questions that you ask? And if there's folks out there trying to communicate to these different entities, including Sasquatch across dimensions, what kind of things should they be asking?
If you ask an entity that you're communicating with, what its name is or what the name of the group of its people, you might not ever heard of that name, because we really don't know the names of all the different civilizations out there. One thing I'm asked a lot when you're in meditation and you start channeling or you start communicating with another entity, how can you tell the difference between yourself and that entity? And that takes practice, 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 practice. And you begin to understand that what you're hearing might be phrased in a way in which you don't speak, or you might be getting information you never even knew of, or you might be given some suggestions as to what to do. And when you're finally brave enough to follow one of those suggestions and see that it worked out really well for you, then you start to have more faith in this information that's coming to you. But it takes practice, and for the most part, human beings are very impatient. And so with practice, you can absolutely form relationships with extraterrestrials. And these relationships can completely change your life. They can help you fulfill your purpose. They can help you gain abundance. They can help you become a much happier person, a much more peaceful person, because their advice and their guidance isn't from the trappings of 3D Earth. It's from this higher perspective that I talked about earlier. And I can tell you that it has changed my life dramatically. The life I used to have compared to the life I have now, it's like two different worlds. I used to be frustrated, unhappy. I was in abusive relationships, and I could never find a career that I was really set with. And I really didn't even know what my purpose in my life was. Now I'm very clear on why I'm here and what I'm supposed to be doing. I don't get caught up in what people say or what people do or the 3D. They're kind of like this heavy weight that brings you down. All the fake worries that go on in this 3D manipulated version that we think is all that exists. When you pop out of that and when you realize that you are in complete control of your reality and your level of happiness, that is when life becomes fun. That's when you want to wake up in the morning. That's when you enjoy your career. And that's when you're surrounded by people who love you, and that's when you're in good, healthy relationships.
So, Sev, talk about your book and certainly, the impact, probably pretty profound on people out there having these experiences that have picked up your book for the first time. But what's that reaction been like, and were you expecting that?
Yes. There are two reasons I wrote the book. The first reason was a very personal one. I've decided to walk this path of authenticity. I've decided that I have to be the most authentic version of myself that I can possibly be, because I've learned through that. That's how I find fulfillment and peace. And part of my authenticity, part of me being true and speaking my truth and speaking up and being who I am involves ETs. The second reason I wrote the book is to help the millions of people who are having ET contact, whether they know it or not. It's about time we stand up, admit what's happening to us, process it, understand it, and then utilize the information that we're getting from these ETs to help our lives. I want to help all of us collectively, globally, to stand up and say, okay, this is happening. This is not a secret. I'm not going to fall for this propaganda that our government is feeding us. I wrote the books to help people come out, to help them talk about their experiences, not to be afraid, not to think that they're abnormal or they're unusual or they're weird, because there are millions and millions and millions of us who are communicating with ETs. After I gave my talk at AlienCon, and when people came up, I was also selling and signing my book, I heard so many stories of personal ET contacts. 99% of the people who bought a book from me at AlienCon told me about a personal ET contact story. That's amazing. And often they started the story with, I've never told anyone this, but, and that is music to my ears. If I can get people to just start talking about it without being afraid of what people were going to think, this would make a huge change in all of our lives. The things that I was afraid of that would happen if I came out didn't even happen. I was afraid my boyfriend was going to leave me. I was afraid my friends would leave me. I thought my family would ridicule me. None of that even happened. So we're afraid of things. We create these crazy little stories in our heads, and 99% of the time they're so fake and they're so false that they're not even going to happen. So, yes, that is a main reason why I wrote this book. I want to help everyone stand up and say, I'm having ET contact, and it's okay, and I'm not weird.
So, Sev, I thought one of the things that were really interesting that you and I talked about at AlienCon was the number of occurrences that happen around ley lines, and even your interactions and stories that you've heard of interactions of interdimensional connections to Sasquatch or Bigfoot around ley lines. But can you talk a little bit about that?
Oh, ley lines are this grid. It's this grid that goes around the Earth, this magnetic grid, and a ley line is like this magnetic line. And there's lots of regions like that in the world. And also, there's also very historic archaeological sites that are built along these ley lines. I'm sure your listeners know about ley lines. In these ley lines where I live, there's just something different about the air. There's something different about the quality of the energy here. And I am not surprised that I have had ET contact here and that there is so much Bigfoot activity right in my neighborhood, all of this happening at the same time. So whether these Bigfoot creatures are entities that live on the Earth 100% of the time, or whether they bounce in and out of our 3D reality and their multi-reality, I do believe that the reason they are happening, or these sightings of Sasquatch and ETs are happening in these particular areas at the same time, is because of the quality of the energy in those areas. And so if you see a Bigfoot, I think it's important to sit down and have a conversation with yourself as to, why did I just see this Bigfoot? This is such a rare and unusual event, and that animal knew I was here. So why did that animal reveal itself to me? This is important to think about. Why did I see it? What does this message does this animal have for me? There's a message here for me. Am I going to ponder this message and grow from it as a person, or am I just going to dismiss it? And this is the same kind of talk I'd like people to have when they have ET contact. Why is this ET contacting me? Why is it talking to me? I'm worthy of this communication. What does it want to tell me? It's all positive things. Like when someone sees a Bigfoot, the Bigfoot isn't out to kill you. There's a message here. The message is, wake up. There is more than what you think you know. There are entities, there are beings that you can't even imagine that exist. This is like a wake-up call for you. Like, look at me. I'm the truth. I'm something you don't even understand. And there's so much more on your earth that you don't even understand. And I am here to expand your mind.
Well, and it's interesting because Paul and I speak to so many guests that, have this experience and it changes their life. It's so profound, but it can really take you down a rabbit hole. And that's really tough on some people when they have these types of interactions.
Yes, and I'd also like to, in a very nice way, just tell people just to kind of get over it. Like, yeah, something amazing happened, but try and get over that and try not to define yourself as someone who saw Bigfoot or someone who saw a spaceship, and just focus inward more and to ask yourself exactly why is it that I was experienced this amazing contact. Sometimes we get all caught up in our egotistical definitions of ourselves, And yeah, I saw Bigfoot, and then from then on, that person just concentrates and defines themselves as seeing Bigfoot, but never really goes inward. So I'm just asking everyone to go inward and try and lose your definitions of who you are and define yourself by what you've seen or what you've done. I'm asking people to define themselves by what's inside. And the thing is, a lot of people are afraid to go there. They're afraid to go inside.
So, Sev, if you wouldn't mind, maybe you can share a little bit with our listeners all about your work, your book, how to follow you, and, of course, any events or book signings you have coming up.
My book is You Have the Right to Talk to Aliens, and it's available on Amazon. I'm very new to this world because I just wrote the book 6 months ago, so a lot has happened in only 6 months. I do continue on talking a lot more. I'm open to opportunities to talk and do interviews, and these are my baby steps into this new little career path that I've entered through the aliens. Up until now, I've been strictly a spiritual coach or a spiritual teacher, and I think it's just a natural progression that when you're in that realm, I think you just naturally start progressing towards ETs and aliens. So I see it as a natural growth for me. I have a website, planetsev.com, and on my website you can subscribe to my newsletter. I have a monthly newsletter. I also have a blog. I'm on Facebook. I'm on Instagram. I'm on YouTube, all as Planet Sev. I also have a podcast on SoundCloud called Alignment, Create Your Reality, about the law of alignment and how to create your reality through your energy. And my newsletter is a really good way of knowing where I'm going to talk next or when my next book is coming out. And also in my newsletter, I give a lot of information, cosmic information, alien information, spiritual information. So there's many ways to follow me, or there's many ways to read about spiritual teachings or ET-related teachings.
So, Sev, certainly there's a lot of people out there that might hear this that are having these experiences that might want to talk to you. But can you share a little bit about, how folks get a hold of you and if that's something you'd be interested in doing?
If you're listening to this and you have an ET contact story that you'd like to share with me, I would love to hear it. You can email me at sev@planetsev.com. I do feel that I'm moving in this direction. Like I said, it's so new, so I'm not quite sure where it's going to take me, but I'm really open to what's going to come along, whether that is talking to large groups of people or doing webcasts, or I'm really not sure what it is. I don't think it's going to be one-on-one anymore. I currently have a one-on-one practice with doing soul purpose readings, but I do not think my ET-related work is going to be one-on-one. I don't know what is coming, but I'm very excited about it, and I really do want people who have ET stories to contact me, and then I'll take it from there.
Yeah, and that's great because I think that there's a lot of people out there that have had these experiences and are not really sure what to do or how to take the next step.
That's very true. I want to be that person. I want to be the person that I wish existed when all of this started popping up for me. I don't know exactly what that's going to look like, but in the meantime, I would like people to contact me.
And Sev, I guess, as people are trying to understand whether or not they have these contacts, what is it that really jumps out at you that would make one, understand that, hey, I've had this experience, I need to talk to somebody?
So in my talk at AlienCon, I did talk about the signs of ET contact. One of them is an unforgettable memory. Another one is new knowledge, like what I talked about in Roswell when I woke up and I had all this new knowledge. One is sleep paralysis, and the other one is marks on the body that you cannot explain.
Well, and I find it interesting because, this whole abduction topic and these experiences have really kind of quieted down, probably since the 60s or 70s. and we don't hear a lot about them anymore. So I think it's really great to have folks like yourself coming out and sharing these experiences.
Yeah, it's time. It's time for us to start coming out individually, and then we can collectively come out. But it takes each and every single one of us to say, I'm not going to be afraid, and I have to understand what's happening to me, and I'm in control. If you do not want to have ET contact, you don't have to have it. They don't control you. All you have to do is simply state from your higher self that this is over, it is done, I will no longer accept it. But it has to be from your higher self, and from that, I mean, it has to come from every cell in your body, that it is over, it is done with, I don't want this anymore. Some people like to use the word contract. You know, this contract is now null and void. It has to come from your higher self, because these ETs have higher selves too. And actually everything we do is an agreement that we all make between our higher selves. And sometimes the earthling self of ours doesn't, we're not connected. Some of us aren't very connected very well to our higher selves, and we don't understand why things are happening to us. But if we just stop for a minute and just think that we have a higher self and there is a bigger picture, it really helps to understand what is going on to you, and also help going on for you, and also for you to always know you are in control.
So there you have it from Sev Tok, author of You Have the Right to Talk to Aliens. So Sev, thanks again for coming on Sasquatch Syndicate. We really do appreciate it, and I know our listeners do as well.
Thank you for listening, everyone. I wish you very happy holidays and a very interesting and fulfilling 2019, and I hope you get to talk to a lot of aliens.
Awesome. Well, thanks, Sev. Really appreciate you coming on Sasquatch Syndicate, and have a safe and Merry Christmas, and we'll talk to you very soon.
You too. Bye.
This concludes our December 2018 podcast. Sasquatch Syndicate will return on Tuesday, January 1st. Thanks to all of our listeners, and those that have been out to our website, and those following us on social media. Sasquatch is a controversial subject, so for all the believers and disbelievers, and those that will tell you they have all the answers, just remember, we're flying through space at 700 miles per hour.